In the process of awakening the higher spiritual identity, it is most useful to develop skill in shifting the station of consciousness out of its usual, more tightly held focus of attention within the physical body into a more expanded state of awareness, through which the more subtle frequencies of higher dimensional cognition can begin to enter the conscious awareness. There are many good techniques of meditation available that will assist you in reaching your consciousness into more expanded states, and we recommend exploring various different practices. Our favorite technique for leading the consciousness into expansion is that of using directed imagery to create a mental picture of a small you, or a small body self, a symbolic image that serves as a vehicle into which your consciousness may be focused to begin its journey of expansion. In the exercise on side B of this tape, the small body self is used as a vehicle of consciousness through which you may begin to expand into the higher dimensional aspects of your own personal identity gestalt. When the earthly consciousness is focused into such a vehicle of transit, it is more easily moved into higher states of awareness. The structure of multidimensional identity is not difficult to comprehend once the underlying template or blueprint for identity is understood. The underlying template of consciousness upon which all manifest identity is built is called the morphogenetic field. The morphogenetic field possesses a specific structure and ordering of energy within the universal dimensional scales, and once the basic structure of identity is understood, it provides a simple roadmap through the multidimensional levels of personal consciousness. In terms of human consciousness, the personal morphogenetic field or consciousness template is structured upon 5 sets of 3 dimensions, or 15 dimensions, each dimensional level possessing a specific level of awareness, cognition, and identity, characteristic to the dimensional band in which it appears. The roadmap through the human psyche is not difficult to follow once the basic form of 15-dimensional structure is understood. In other writings, we have provided an in-depth analysis of the dimensional levels and stations of consciousness contained within the morphogenetic field of the human identity. For the following exercise, it is not necessary to comprehend the details of this interpsyche roadmap, other than to simply identify some of the primary landmarks of consciousness within the greater structure of 15-dimensional human consciousness. There are 8 primary landmarks of consciousness within the overall structure of human identity. The first 5 landmarks represent stations of consciousness that correspond to the 5 sets of 3 dimensions contained within the 15-dimensional construct of the human psyche. The final 3 landmarks of consciousness represent stations of consciousness that correspond to 3 non-dimensionalized reality fields, out of which all dimensional consciousness is formed. The 8 landmarks of consciousness within the structure of the human psyche are called Huva bodies. They exist in literal terms as structures of light, sound, and consciousness, upon which each aspect of identity is built. The first landmark in the human psyche is the Nada Huva body, which corresponds to dimensions 1 through 3 and contains within it the awareness of the physical, emotional, and mental bodies. The Nada Huva body includes the body consciousness, the subconscious mind, the emotional nature, the logical or egotistical mind, part of the intuitive mind, and represents portions of personal identity most familiar to the earth-based physical human. The Alpha Huva body is the second landmark of consciousness. It corresponds to dimensions 4 through 6 and contains within it the awareness of the superconscious mind, more commonly known as the human soul, or the soul matrix. The 3 levels of mind and stations of consciousness associated with the soul matrix and Alpha Huva body represent the first levels of transcendent human consciousness. Through the soul matrix, the earthly identity receives cognition of its eternal nature and becomes able to transcend the seeming limitations imposed by the finite physical form and egotistical personality focus. The third landmark of consciousness within the human psyche is the Betahuva body, which corresponds to dimensions 7 through 9, and contains within it the 3 levels of awareness and identity known as the human Oversoul. Through the Oversoul and Betahuva body, the human soul matrix is connected to the greater gestalts of higher dimensional identity that represent the family tree of consciousness, out of which each human individual emerges into individuation. As the consciousness of the earthly human expands into the frontiers of the higher dimensional identity, it becomes increasingly aware of itself as a gestalt of consciousness, or one identity composed of many. The identity no longer identifies itself solely by the images, personality traits, or confines of the physical body in earthly life drama. From the higher stations of consciousness of the Alpha and Betahuva bodies, the soul and oversoul identities, greater perspective and understanding and creative power can be gained in regard to the earthly experience. The fourth landmark of consciousness is the Maharic body, corresponding to dimensions 10 through 12, and contains within it the 3 levels of consciousness that compose the Avatar identity. The Avatar identity is the first level of meta-transcendent consciousness, through which the earthly identity can begin to experience itself not only as a gestalt of human consciousness, but also as an intrinsic part of the global, galactic, and universal structures of consciousness. From the focus of the avatar consciousness, the identity begins to fully recognize itself as a living wave of energy identity, no longer needing to identify with any one physical form or manifest image. It begins to know itself as part of all things, and perceives all things in terms of living energy identity. From the avatar identity station, the illusions of space, time, matter, physicality, and manifestation are comprehended, and the true reality of interwoven patterns of consciousness becomes apparent. The 12-dimensional avatar identity of the Maharic body represents the state of cognition referred to as Christ consciousness. It is the highest level of consciousness that can be fully synthesized through the physical DNA and neurological structure, and is thus the highest dimensionalized level of consciousness that can be embodied within a physical human form. The fifth landmark of consciousness within the human psyche is that of the Rajahuva body, which corresponds to dimensions 13 through 15 and represents what is called the Rishi identity. All stations of consciousness positioned within the lower dimensional fields originally entered dimensionalization through the identity structure of the Rishi and the Rajahuva body. However, not all beings have retained their organic energetic connection between the Maharic and Rajahuva bodies. Only identities that have retained or who rebuild their connection to the Rishi identity gestalt and the Rajahuva body will have the ability to fully expand their consciousness and transmute their energetic structure out of dimensionalization and into the original form of pure consciousness and at-one-ment with Source, out of which their original creation emerged. The Rishi identity and Rajahuva body energetically connect the lower dimensional Huva bodies and stations of identity to the 3 final landmarks of consciousness, through which release or full ascension from dimensionalization occurs. The final 3 landmarks of consciousness within the structure of the human psyche are the Tanatra, the Amni, and Premahuva bodies, which correspond to the 3 non-dimensionalized reality fields that exist between the 15-dimensional structures of the time matrix and the original point of perpetual creation within Source God. The final 3 landmarks of consciousness represent the 3 stations of identity that constitute true ascended mastery, in terms of consciousness evolving through expansion back into at-one-ment with Source. Human consciousness is designed as part of this evolutionary process of expansion toward at-one-ment, through which the Earth human identity can progressively expand its identity into its original form as a conscious, co-creative portion of the God mind. Most earthly humans have a long journey of evolution and expansion through many different life experiences in numerous dimensional fields before they will experience the states of cognition known as ascended mastery and at-one-ment with Source. However, this process of evolving through expansion of identity and consciousness can be greatly accelerated through understanding the general roadmap of the human psyche and consciously co-directing the evolutionary process from the earthly perspective, while working cooperatively with the higher stations of identity. The following exercise, linking with the Solar Rishi, opening to 15th dimensional guidance, employs the technique of using a small u body image as a vehicle in which your earthly focused consciousness can begin its journey into the realms of higher dimensional identity. The purpose of this exercise is to begin training the conscious mind to move into higher vibrating fields of energy, through which an energetic link between the earthly identity in the Nadahuva body and the Rishi identity in the Rajahuva body can be established. The earthly identity must link to the Rishi identity through the Maharahuva body avatar identity, the personal Christ consciousness. In this exercise, frequency patterns of the Maharahuva body, symbolized by the image of the silver shield, are transmitted into the body vehicle, then transferred into the bioenergetic system of the physical body to begin the process of awakening the avatar identity within the physical embodiment. Through the imagery of the following exercise, direct changes are being made to the morphogenetic templates for the physical body and consciousness, changes that will progressively trigger activation of dormant DNA codes and open dormant neural passageways and energy conduits within the brain and body. These biomorphogenetic adjustments prepare the physical body vessel to draw in and hold progressively higher dimensional levels of consciousness. Expanding the body's energy holding capacity allows the higher stations of identity to integrate with the earthly consciousness and expands the earthly identity progressively into its transcendent states of awareness. Through activities such as the following exercise, the process of evolution through expansion of consciousness is rapidly accelerated and set back upon its original intended course, and the earthly identity develops the ability to move itself consciously into higher dimensional fields of reality, experience, and perception. For the earthly incarnate identity, this begins the process of passing through the landmarks of consciousness within the human psyche, setting in motion the dynamics of co-creative conscious evolution toward eventual ascended mastery and a return to sentient at-one-ment with Source. The human identity is an eternal identity construct. We only seem as limited, finite creatures because we have lost our roadmap through the eternal portions of our own form. Through the Melchizedek Cloister Accelerated Biospiritual Evolution Program, we once again rediscover our roadmap to transcendence, through which we can once again become aware of our eternal nature and begin to consciously direct the path of our own evolution into the eternal fields of creativity out of which we originally emerged into manifestation. There is much more to our human identity than what exists between the top of our heads and the bottoms of our feet. It is time for us to reclaim our true heritage and remember the multidimensional eternal